Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thursday, September 19th public meeting of the Kingston City Land Bank's Acquisition, Disposition, and Construction Committee. My name is Mike. I serve as the moderator. We do ask that members of the public limit their comments to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I turn the meeting over to the committee chair, Mr. Aaron Chilwich.
Hello and welcome, committee members. Since we have no members of the public, we'll jump right into the agenda. So the first thing on the agenda, Paul, for your sake, I'll just elaborate a little more. I think you probably already got a lot of this from Mike, but the first thing on the agenda is the AHRP updates. That's the only project that we currently have that's under construction. That is 6 projects that is funded through kind of essentially a series of different state grants as well as some kind of local foundation funding. So there's no bank loan. It's kind of different from the last kind of construction project we've done. And this is kind of, I think, the first update we've gotten because construction started right after, or maybe we did one at the last committee meeting 2 months ago. So it's pretty new to construction, but I think moving fast. Pretty new to construction, but moving fast. So why don't we jump in then, Owen, you want to give us your summary construction updates? I can share my screen, or do you want to share yours? Whichever one you'd prefer.
Sure. I can share mine.
Okay.
So, big picture, catching people up or reminding everybody, because we've been apart for a little bit, but we've got 6 houses that are being renovated that have permits. 4 of them are really being actively worked on right now. 2 of them, the plan is that most of the construction happens at the start of the new year. So any work that's happening on them is sort of like happening to fill a gap in somebody's schedule or because some materials got ordered to get ahead of things. So we've got 4 of these houses. Maida is the contractor, and 2 of the houses, Dynamism is the GC. And if you haven't seen this, I'll show you kind of like the important points here. So we start with what's our original contract amount. We list out any change orders that are actually fully approved and in contract, and then you kind of see where things are with the total contract. I also give you a heads up about things that I kind of see coming down, coming soon, or potential risks or whatever, or potential change orders. And then where things stand with that, just in case there is something that's big that is not totally in contract yet. And then we check in about what kind of contingency we have assigned to the project and the percentage of that's been spent down. So if 100% has been spent down, we have no more contingency left for that project. We see the actual amounts that are left, and then check in about the projected things. And then some schedule items. Here's our original start date, and then the completion date. This is substantial completion, so it doesn't mean that every punch list item is done, but it means that the house has a certificate of occupancy and the work is largely done. And if there's been any other updates to that. And then we see, based on the date, how far along we expect the project to be, and then compare that to what we've actually requisitioned for, and then the requisition that we are reviewing right now. If we're reviewing it, that work's pretty much done. It just maybe hasn't been signed off on or paid yet. And then we kind of check in about what the deviation is. So I'll give you a couple of like highlights here. One is broadly, we can see if we just go down to the way bottom that in general, things are on schedule. Gil, you can see, is lagging a little bit behind, and that's true. That's not like a anomaly or like something weird with the information here. It is a little bit behind. It's on the GC's mind, and they're trying to catch up. And the plan is to catch up and not mess with the project end date at this point. Yeah, Stefan, which the same GC is working on, I think is tracking a little bit better. The other thing I'd highlight is that we're about a quarter way through this progress on these jobs, and so far our contingency has gone up since we started. So we've lowered the total contract amount when usual course of business is to increase the contract as we go along and discover problems. So yeah, that's sort of an unusual thing that's happening now, and I would expect we do wind up increasing the contract some, but it's just something to note and be happy about at the moment.
Can you explain where that came from? Like how there are negative change orders?
Yeah, sure. So when we went into this project, I went back through all of our previous change orders and made sure that our contracts were like trying to cover for the things that came up that where we've had cost increases in the past. And part of that was there are certain things, and I'll give you a very like good example of it, which come up on many projects, not every project, but it's like on so many projects that it would be kind of silly to not acknowledge that it's a possibility. So like when we're doing replacing roofs, a lot of these roofs don't have sufficient sheathing. They have structural sheathing, but not the sheathing needed for the shingle manufacturer's warranty. So you take the roof off, the roofer calls you and says, we got to put 1/2-inch plywood over the whole thing. You basically don't have a choice, and you have to do it. So we have in our base contract, we have allowances for that now. And so if we don't use that whole allowance or don't use it at all, then we change order it out as we go along. Like we don't, we replaced the roof. We didn't need any extra plywood. We change order it out. Our total contract went down, and we keep going. So some of these houses have had a mix of allowances we took out. Yeah, some of them, there were some construction choices that wound up saving some costs. And then we've added things in too. And just at the moment, we're net lowering our total contract prices.
Gotcha.
Any questions about any of that?
We just because Megan's gonna come up in a minute. Sales commencement, is it still 10:15 or are we talking 11:1 now? Or I guess Kyle, Mike, and Owen, the whole crew.
Sure. So based on a more granular review of construction progress and also wanting to make sure that the homes are completed and done and ready for sale and there not be any gap where a family is ready to close and we're not ready to sell and so the documents start to expire, we pushed out the start date tentatively to November 1st right now. That probably is the date based on a few other factors. We talked about it comms as well.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like that's the start date. It's a 45-day campaign, by the way. I believe last time we were thinking 30 days.
Will that date ever be reflected in this document? Or is it a separate? This is just because we're just looking at the construction. So the houses should be done by that point, but
Yes.
not, okay.
So it sort of all dovetails together, Joanna. It's a great question with trying to get a whole comprehensive matrix of all the different timelines and the ins and outs. We would seek to back into a lottery date of the 27th of January. And so adding onto that, historically 60 days for closing, that is where you see the delivery dates of January 30th. And so we feel very comfortable that there's enough buffer there.
Gotcha.
Great.
Yep.
Gotcha. So
Thank you.
end of January lottery, 45 days, get you December 15th, then sell in the spring, end of the winter, early spring. Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay.
Our final part of the process to refine the sales and marketing campaign timelines is to, once we feel internally like we know where we need to be, and I think we're close. Over the next 30 days, we then review with our homeownership counseling agency at REPCO and confirm some of their timelines that we're making assumptions on are correct. For example, when we close our marketing and registration period, how long does it take them to complete the intake packages? Historically, that's been about 45 days. We want to check in with them. And similarly, once we finish the lottery, how long does it take to be what's called clear to close and ready to close? We're assuming 60 days, but we want to check in with them. So it could move a little bit.
Do you imagine that it'll be affected at all by the holidays for the turn of the turnover time?
I think it will. That's a great point. That's what we're hoping to see. If we close the campaign on the 15th of December, that may be convenient for the land bank, but does REPCO then work for 45 days through the holidays to right? So it is a question. We only have a board meeting once a month, and that's historically when we've held the lottery. So we're trying to hit that 30-day window. So if not January, then February, and so it's a little bit of iterative right now. But we will have much more clarity in a month.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions for Owen or the rest of the team? All right, thank you, Owen.
Sure.
Thanks, Owen.
Did you meet before? Did Murray come down since you've last met? Murray Street? Or had you? Well, I'll say it out loud in case it's not clear that we demolished Murray Street.
I've actually not gone by there. I should go by and see that it's gone. Okay.
I think we had our board meeting right before, right? So you were
Yeah.
still talking about if you could have drones or something. Is that true?
That did not happen. That's on me.
Okay. Did you go for the show?
Me, yeah.
You watched it happen? That's great.
Yeah. I'll try to I'll pull up a photo for you just so you can see what it's like.
Thanks.
Kyle, are you there?
And you were pleased with the people that we hired to do that, correct?
Yep.
Yes. Kyle, you might be breaking up a little bit, so I can try to sub in.
Here, Mike, I'll share my screen and show Kyle's
Okay.
Kyle's thing. Oh,
Look at that.
I can't share my screen while this is being shared. Thank you.
That's the idea. It's gone.
It was great. And Owen did an amazing job managing expectations and timelines and all the various permitting and last minute requirements from the city and the various interacting vendors within the process. And so it's our first demolition. I think it went really well. Rebecca, to answer your question from my perspective, I think it was a success. Okay, Kyle, I will try to ham-fist my way through this, not as eloquently as you do, but it seemed to be when you jumped on, although maybe you have a better audio now. You can try if you like, but no pressure if you can. I'm assuming you're looking at your phone for this too.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, sorry, I'm just pulling that out translation right now, so might lose you, but yeah, not a ton to report here. This just reflects Owen's latest construction requisition, our largest requisition to date, $387,000. Again, we're pulling all our project funds from LBI, and we've drawn down almost 50% of our LBI funds allocated to this project. So making good progress on that. Once we draw that all down, we'll start pulling from the other funding sources. But
Sorry, I think we lost you, Kyle. Oh, micro mute.
It's chaos at the ADC meeting. So to Kyle's point that he was making, we are on budget, we are on schedule. The LBI 2 expenditure is a data point I'd like to highlight at 47% last time we met and presented, I believe it was around 40. This is exclusive of other spending that we've used LBI2 funds for, so it's not a completely comprehensive picture, but when we get, just for note, when we get to 75% is when we can apply for more funds. So we're continuing to move in that direction at an incredibly rapid pace, on time, ahead of budget, and organized, which is great.
And Paul, just you probably already heard this from Mike, but LBI is the Land Bank Initiative.
Sorry.
This is round 2 of the Land Bank Initiative, not to be confused with round 1, phase 2 of the Land Bank. So it's a steady source of funding that we're using for a bunch of different things.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, of course.
Happy to clarify anything, Paul. I tend to step over acronyms as if everybody knows what they are. So apologies, and just let us know.
And ARPA is the federal COVID program that we got an allocation from the city from. Sorry, I'm scrolling around a lot. I apologize. It's all.
Expected to be 25% complete, and we're 26% complete, for example.
Gotcha.
In terms of funding expenditures.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and these completion dates. This is because Hasbrook and Grand are going to start in the new year, so everything is July 2025. Okay, that makes sense. Or January. Here's January 2025. Okay, I see. Okay. Any questions about this for the team? All right, I'll stop my share. Why can't I stop my share? What's going on? There it is. Stop share. I guess anything else on these 6 rehabs? The next thing on the agenda was the sales and marketing campaign, which we just kind of talked about, and I know comms will take the lead. And there's been obviously some new a new process that's being worked out now with Rupco, because we're going to go back to working with Rupco for the first time since the very beginning of the Land Bank. Anything on marketing that we should discuss in this committee that anybody wants to talk about?
I might just want to highlight that with the Fed dropping interest rates by 0.5 point, that HCR dropped their rates by 0.5 point. So Kyle picked up on that last night. That means higher sales prices than we would have otherwise anticipated, still keeping the homes at or below 80% of AMI. So in the context of that being unrestricted cash back to the land bank to pay for future projects, that is a good thing. Before we finalize any of the pricing, it'll be circulated and discussed and socialized and all these other things. But just wanted to highlight that change.
That's a good thing. First time in a while we've had rates go down. It's nice.
Oh, we've been living through it, Paul, the interest rate increases and the effect that has on various aspects of being able to do this work. And it's nice to see that change.
I guess the one thing I'll say, because we talked about it as exec committee, is that we're not going to do, because it's too expensive this time around, we're not going to do the bus kind of wrap around of the bus posters. And we talked about wanting to I talked about identifying some events to go table at over the course of the 45-day period where people come up and apply right there or take the code to. Mike and Kyle, I think, have already started putting together a list of events. And I proposed, really only speaking for myself, that they should not take up their Sundays to go table events, and perhaps the board could do a little bit of that. And so they're taking the lead on the outreach portion and identifying the events, and I think we can check in about kind of who has time to be, on the Rondout, in the Rondout or Uptown, whatever date it is that we're going to go out there. If people are up for that, make sure they have their weekends. Great.
Thank you.
Then the last thing is the home program, which is the state's relaunch of this federal program that we're going to be hopefully utilizing for some single-family new construction projects. Should I share my screen here again? Then, Mike, you want to go through this since unless
Sure.
you're coming back?
Be happy to. So the Home HDP program is the home development program through the state of New York's HCR, which is Housing and Community Renewal. Trying to be sensitive to all these different acronyms, but it still doesn't make any sense even when you know what they all mean. The home program is a long-standing, one of the original federal subsidy programs that has been utilized by the states for decades. This is a subset of that program that was mothballed quite some time ago by the state and has now been resurrected by the state. So all of the people on the state side are very capable of finding the answers, but they have not worked with this program before. So I mentioned that to say that while it's fully understood and cogent in its own mind, it may not be something that we always have exactly the answers for as we're learning along the way. So with that out of the way, land banks have been invited to apply for this round of funding. The round of funding is $10 million, with closing of applications for this round ending at the end of October. We spoke with the state yesterday just to have fresh sort of data points to talk about. 5 applications have been submitted to date, for which the maximum allocation per application is $1 million. So we think there might be about $5 million left. What is required is that you have ownership of a lot that is suitable for building a new construction single-family affordable home sold at or below 80% of area median income. As Owen highlighted, we have at least one vacant lot at Murray Street. We also have a vacant lot on Hanratty and a vacant lot on Teller. So understanding this, we have been rapidly moving forward to prepare ourselves to apply next month for this program. The subsidy amounts vary based on the bedroom size, and the overall philosophy is that with this program, we would be producing smaller, new construction, single-family affordable homes, the thinking being that larger ones cost more, and the subsidy amounts are only at that level. We are hoping once we reach the 75% threshold for the Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 trigger, for which we can apply for more funding, that we would be able to also add those funds to this project. And so the question remains, what does it cost to build? Owen has graciously and rapidly put together sample prototype typologies for a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom house, exploring those with both modular construction providers and with, I would say, on-site construction providers. I don't want to step on parts of the presentation that I'm sure Owen is excited to get into, but that, from my perspective, is the kind of overarching piece of why we're doing this, when we're doing this, and we just want to socialize it at this meeting and also at the board meeting.
Should I jump in?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I think just continuing with what Mike was saying, the turnaround between when we found out that this was a possibility to get the state funding for new construction and when we're applying to it is extremely short for this, you know, for having a plan about what we're doing. So part of what's happening is that, and we're also kind of like, it's not 100% clear that, you know, we've proved that rehabs are feasible for us and we can make it work. And, you know, whether new construction is going to work out for single families, that we're hopeful and optimistic, but, you know, we still have to prove the feasibility. So that's kind of what's happening right now is we're trying to look at sort of like the we're proposing very small houses, very simple houses that are like will be streamlined to build and will be well built, but no frills and not large. And I don't have the punchline for you yet of like what the cost estimate is, because we're expecting that like by the end of the month. So should have some feedback about that very soon. And we're gonna take that and then use that to put together this application, and then if it feels like we have a path forward with it, then figure out the details of what we're doing. I think, can I just freestyle about timeline, Mike? Or is that I think I don't know when we're, oh, maybe it says here, I don't know if we know when we would hear back, but I think the hope would be we hear back this year, kind of prepare the first half of the next year, and then execute on construction the second half of next year. That in my mind, that's how it could go. So that, yeah, we basically wrap up the rehabs first half of next year, and then can do new construction in the second half.
I have a question. Are we thinking only of small single-family homes, one per lot, or are there any lots that would be appropriate for like a multifamily?
So the program itself is only for 1 to 4 single-family homes built on up to 4 separate lots. So unfortunately, this is the program for that, but we are definitely exploring. I would love to talk after this about some hopeful opportunities in a few days to do a new multi-family infill.
So this particular program is 1 home per lot.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
And
thanks.
Yeah, of course. Just to add more context on the thinking, as Owen and Kyle's reports have shown, we plan to be done with our rehabs, right, in July of next year. And so what do we do has been a longstanding question. This could be what we do, and this would allow us to transition in a relatively modest way into new construction, while many other things are also happening to move us into new construction on different sites. I'm very excited about it. I think it's the most amount of subsidy per unit that we've seen for almost all the work that we do from the program side. And as Owen said, there are many uncertainties around timeline and what ifs at this point, but we have to apply to find out if we actually have something to work with.
Yeah, I mean, just in my, my prejudice is often towards looking for multifamily units, but this is not the appropriate program for that.
And these
Just
lots
for
are very
others.
small. Our lots are very small, unfortunately.
And I agree with you in principle, Rebecca, too.
It's just,
Totally.
Yeah.
just looking for community, building community
Yeah.
in different ways. So that's why I asked, but it's clear here what we're doing. And I look forward, Owen, to seeing how much the subsidy, how far it would get us. I'm curious how close to the thing this amount of money would give us, so.
So are we, Rebecca.
I know you are. I know. It's like, and your down payment, it's going to be, it's going to be great. So yeah, curious.
One thing that's worth noting in a positive way is just that because we've gotten this question a bunch with every campaign, which is, I'm a single individual, can I apply for your 3-bedroom house? And
Totally.
we are not required to, but in order to try to figure out the best, household, we have set as an organization minimum and household sizes based on bedroom counts. And there are, I think, a lot of younger people and older people who want opportunities, and we've not been able to provide that opportunity to single individuals, and this will be a chance for us to do that. Every campaign we've had that question many times. Can I ask? Go ahead. Sorry, Owen.
No, I think what you're highlighting is true, and I think there's also there's been energy and effort to try to create that kind of housing in our city, and I think part of why, as we were talking about what we should try to steer towards, this also seemed like an opportunity to just show it happening, kind of not to make it seem glorious if it isn't, but to just be like, yeah, you know, we can build a tiny 2-bedroom house or a tiny 1-bedroom house, and like, yep, it costs this much. It's well built. Somebody's gonna be happy living there. And we did it, or you know, it's done. It's not just a concept. So that was something that we were excited about. And it's definitely doing this kind of house is not doing another kind of house, which is bigger and showcases other things. So, but that's something we can, if we have other things we want to explore, we can do them for another round.
All right. Anything else on this from anybody on home? If not, I
Just-
imagine. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Rebecca.
I'm just gonna say, I think it's exciting. I mean, thank you for Owen for all the hard work, I think. And Mike, I think it's exciting for us to think about not just rescuing, but also providing houses for Kingston. So I also think it's going to be a shift in our public view. So I'm sure that Comms is thinking about that. Do you know what I mean? In terms of our identity. So so it'll be interesting. It's hard to get things done in Kingston. From my point of view, I don't know if that's really true, but it seems like it's hard to get things built. I don't know. You tell me. Feels like it. So
We're going to make it happen if it's possible. So
of course we will.
Are the just one question, are the modular builders that you're talking to, Owen?
Yeah.
Is it all built to local to like state and local building codes, or is any of it HUD manufactured housing code?
No, it's not HUD. It's local building code. So it's like, if like Kingston has some code standards that are more strict than the state, and so
Yeah.
they just have to adjust to it. So it
Yeah.
it may be higher than to build somewhere else, but that's what we'll do.
Cool. I will stop sharing my screen.
What is your estimation of how long it would take to get that money if we ever got that money? Like, how long would it be before we could even really begin a project like that? Mike, do you think?
I'm hoping that we would commence construction on one or more of the homes around the time that we finish the rehabs. So third quarter of 2025 would be a targeted commencement date. We just keep things moving. Would be my goal. We'll see if the timelines of the program dovetail with that. I feel like they do, because they're activating a new program and hoping to show success under the program.
It feels like a much more attainable project to do rather than just jump right into Third Avenue, which I know will be much more.
Absolutely.
And I think too, because these lots are so small, it's like in some ways it's creating housing where there wouldn't be any, versus just like a park or something, which could be nice too. But yeah, it's really interesting. And as someone who
Thank you.
heard about the KCLB looking for a 1-bedroom home, but it wasn't, obviously there was none. I think it could be really interesting to offer that. And then I guess we'll have this conversation down the road, but obviously we have a reputation of rehabbing homes to a certain level, and as far as like the character of Kingston and all of these things. And so that'll be an interesting challenge with this new construction to think about how we sort of what will that look like? Like, how do we maintain certain things, but also like maybe, it's just an acknowledgement that Kingston in some ways is changing with needing more housing. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to still, Mike, to connect you and John Olson from the Housing Task Force, who's really interested in modular. I know that you're talking to different people on and modular, and there might be, John and I were talking about the synergy of whether a modular builder could ever be part of the old IBM plant redevelopment, like whether that's a business that we could invite somehow to seduce to come to Kingston, someone who does modular construction. So I'm going to try to get Mike and John together, and I'll copy you if that's okay. I know you're too busy really, and see if we can find out what that conversation. He's a a project manager in the, like, big project manager, so he knows what he's talking about as opposed to me. So let's see.
Sounds great.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, of course. Could I mention one update, Aaron, that I hadn't
Please.
suggested? Thank you. I just realized, when you have a month off, you forget about things that are going on in the background. The Kingston City Land Bank submitted earlier for the City of Kingston's Grand Slam request
Yeah.
RFPI, and so without on this public meeting disclosing the details of that, we should hear back by October 1st. And so when we come back to you for the next meeting, we will be all aflutter with ideas and plans and things that we've been working on for quite some time. So super exciting.
And you have mentioned before that you think that will impact the state of the properties on either side. So do you think we're going to run in? Isn't that true? Right? We have properties.
It may.
Yeah.
It may. We have to hear. Well, first, we have to be awarded. That would help. If we're not awarded, then we have our plan to continue with the rehabs as we contracted GCs to do so. If we are awarded, we have.
We could just Paul, just so you know, we're talking about at the
Yeah,
corner,
sorry.
at the corner of Grand and Hasbrook. Hasbrook? It is Hasbrook, right? Yeah. We own the properties. The corner lot is the big old bar, and two of the properties that we're currently rehabbing are on each street on either side of this bar. So we're talking about this bar, the Grand Slam bar, which the city put out for RFP separately. So it's this intersection where we have a big interest in it because we're rehabbing two properties side by side from it right now. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry, back to you.
No, you said it. That is exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it, and we are excited to hopefully transform that entire corner into an example of what's possible under the new code. Some of the things that we proposed were not possible under the old code, so the city would be able to celebrate that.
Is that just a block away from Sorry Charlie? Is that right? Or no? Grand Slam, the old Grand Slam bar? No.
I would say it's in Midtown.
Yeah, it's if you come up Grand Street
Okay.
from Broadway, it's just like a block and a half north of like
Oh, I see. You're talking about the one with the old. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Right in that industrial area. Okay.
it dead ends at a public works garage. That's
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
I know exactly what you were talking about. It's a tricky area.
But exciting stuff too. Anything else anybody has for today? Then I think we can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a
Ready
second?
to do that?
Oh, yeah, all in
Second.
favor?
Ciao.
We're unanimous.
See ya. Take care.
Mike, would you-
Thanks,
Mike,
Kyle.
Mike, would you hold on for 1 second after you stop recording and stuff? Yeah.
Of course.